everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This whole recital has been a huge project filled with so many wonderful friends, and it's nice to still see many friends in the audience as well as up here. I'd just like to introduce my rhythm section, who wasn't introduced before. So we have Amari Alexander Pevehouse on drums. We have Aramis Fernandez on congas and percussion, who has flown here from Miami as well, so that's pretty cool. We have Bongmin Yoon on piano. And we have Jake Chaffee, who has also flown here from Eugene, Oregon, on bass. That tune was one that I've loved for many years, and it's called Inside Out. And it's written by an Australian pianist called Andrea Keller, and she's absolutely fantastic. And I was a huge idol of hers for many years, and then I met her in person one day, and she was just the loveliest person ever, which is always kind of nice when you meet people that you idolize and they turn out to be cool people. But that song she wrote for her son when I believe he was 6 years old. And normally it's performed with a smaller ensemble, so I thought it'd be really special to kind of write an arrangement with full jazz orchestra. This next one is called Gesture One, and it's a tune by Avishai Cohen, the bassist. And again, I've loved this tune for many, many, many years and never really thought that I would one day be playing it, let alone at UNT. So yeah, this is Gesture One. And this one features Noah Leiva and Hart on cello. Tab has also flown here from Australia. This next one is an original of mine that I arranged for jazz orchestra, and I also arranged it so that when I perform it, normally I perform this song solo or with a small band accompanying me, and I use my laptop and run many effects and loops and things through it, but I've arranged it so that now works with this orchestra. This is called It's For Sure With You, and a bit of a shameless plug, but next Friday I'm releasing a single on all platforms, and it's not this song, but it's of a similar vibe, so you should all go check it out. Okay, this is It's For Sure With You. like to welcome on stage Stephen and Catherine. And Noah, can you scoot forward, or you're pretty stuck? This next tune is one by the Goat Rodeo Sessions, and it has been the bane of my existence the past few weeks. It's so hard to play, and it's my kind of token fiddle tune, because I wanted to push myself and not just play my originals and jazz, but also do a kind of folk fiddle tune. And it's really pushed me, so it's been really hard. But I have some awesome musicians here. Stephen Sellers on mandolin. Noah Leiva on cello. And Catherine Willis on bass. This one is called Attaboy. that one's done. So now I'm going to do my thank yous right in the middle. And man, there's so many people that have helped me get to where I am. And weeks and weeks and weeks ago, I kind of started writing like my thoughts in my phone, and then I didn't revisit it until today. So I'm going to revisit it now. But firstly, I would like to thank my mom, Aileen. Oh, he's right here. She is the biggest supporter of me doing music ever. Like, I got so lucky. And I feel like a lot of parents would think it's crazy for a kid to want to, pursue a music career, let alone move to America from Australia to do it. But my first birthday here, Aileen sent me a card, and she signed it, "Love Aileen, mum, your biggest fan." And I just bawled my eyes out when I read it. But truly, thank you so much. And for flying over and helping me with all these headphones and stuff. So yeah, thank you, Aileen. Also to my mum, Taryn, who passed away when I was 17, but she was the biggest supporter in me kind of trying genres that weren't just classical. And I remember when I was a teenager, I would practice my classical violin, and it wasn't very good, and she would go out and have a ciggy on the deck, and then I would start playing pop songs, and she would come and lay on the couch and go, "Oh, this is much nicer, much nicer." And she bought me my first ever loop station, which was kind of the catalyst for me getting into all of this tech stuff. So huge thank you to Taryn. Also, I'd like to thank my stepmom, Carmel, who is back in Australia, but she's also been a huge support and has crocheted me. She crocheted me this top, and every time I see her or every time Aileen comes over, she has a little crocheted gift for me. And they always fit. It's kind of crazy, but they always just fit perfectly. So thank you, Carmel, if you're watching the live stream. Next up, I would like to thank my dunkles, John and Patrick. I have a lot of parents, but I call them my dunkles because they're my dad uncles. John and Patrick have supported me hugely throughout this journey as well. And this is actually a violin that John gave me, and it's this really cool 5-string made by an Australian luthier out of Australian wood, I'm pretty sure. So I thought I would play it for my recital today as kind of a bit of a thank you to John and Patrick and Australian luthiers. I would also like to say a huge thank you to Regina Carter, who's watching the live stream. She's been my biggest mentor throughout this whole crazy journey. And she's kind of I joke with her that she's become my American mum, because every time I've seen her or every time I've stayed with her, she just takes me under her wing and is just so cool and down to earth and lovely and helpful, and also such a killing player. So thank you, Regina. You've inspired me every day. Now I would like to thank some UNT teachers. One is on my committee, Dave. I'm not sure if he's still sick or if he's here in person, but Professor Meter, when I got into UNT, I kind of expected that bebop would be eating my greens, and that it would be something that would be good for me but that I wouldn't enjoy. But then when I started studying it with you, I was really surprised at how much I loved it. And it's something that, I really, really value. And so, thank you, Dave. Also, Dr. Thile. I feel like everyone that has a class with Dr. Thile is just amazed by how impressive she is. I just want to be like Dr. Thile when I grow up. So thank you. Professor Davis, thank you again for being on my recital committee. When I first came here, I found you really, really intimidating. And then Regina said, "Oh, Quincy, he's like a little brother to me." And then I found you less intimidating. So thank you for being a mentor as well. And last but certainly not least, Professor Tixier, you're the whole reason I came here. You're the whole reason I am here. I remember when I was 19, Googling jazz violinists and seeing that you were on faculty here and saying to my best friend at the time, I want to do that. And then COVID happened, and I thought I would have to park that dream. But then, yeah, we kept having online lessons over Skype. And there, you made it happen. You know, it always encouraged me, and you've really changed how I've played and have really boosted my confidence, I think, a lot. So yeah, thank you, Professor Dixier. Also, thank you to all of my Australian friends back home who are watching the live stream. All of our FaceTimes, that just really, quelled the homesickness when I first moved here. I sample a lot of my friends in some of my originals, and every time I play them, I just think, oh, it's like they're here with me. You remind me that just not everything is so hectic. You remind me that it's normal to not wear shoes. You remind me that it's normal to swear a lot. Yeah, I love you all so much. And Tab, thank you for flying over here. It means the world. And very lastly, thank you to all of my American friends here. It's kind of crazy how many friends that I never thought I would, have such close friends in such a short amount of time, let alone that most of them would be like Texans born and raised. I think if you'd said that to me a couple years ago, I would have gone, oh, that's a bit embarrassing. But then I moved here, and I'm from Australia's most progressive city. We have no guns. We have a lot of queer folk. It's so not what I, thought Texas would be like. But then I came here and met so many lovely, like-minded individuals that I really consider family. So thank you to all of you. Also, thank you to the sound, everyone on sound tonight. I've got so many bits and bobs going on, and they, did an amazing, amazing job with it. And this orchestra, we've only had a few rehearsals, but every time, everyone's smiling and in such good spirits and learning all of my charts. So yeah, thank you guys so much. Okay, I have two more for you this evening. The first is a jazz standard, which I'm sure you all know, that actually features a string soli section, and there's a lot of Tixier licks in there. So that's kind of hat nod your way, hat tilt. And then the second one is an original of mine called Second Jamie. Hope you enjoy. No, I have one more thank you. Sorry. Oh, thank you. This is a thank you to my roommate, Caitlin. Because she gave me secondary vocal lessons in my first semester here, and you're such an incredible teacher. It's again, just such a huge boost to my confidence. So yeah, thank you. Hug me till I cry, then crush me with your weight. Hold me while you go and love me till you wake. How I feel and tell me once again. Tell me till I die I'm the best you've ever been. You're my Jamie, you're my favorite color. And in another life I will drive you around. Your confidence is comforting. But I'll still drive you around in this one too. my favorite color. And in another life, I would drive you around. Your confidence is comforting, but I'll still drive you around in this one too. Hug me till I crash me with your way. Hold me while you go. Tell me how I feel and tell me once again. Tell me till I cry. I'm the best you've ever been. Hug me till I cry and crush me with your way. Hold me while you go. Till you're away. Tell me how I feel and tell me once again. Tell me till I die, I'm the best you've ever been. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for being here. It means